Welcome back. So for Minnesota, we're looking at Minnesota. Yes, that means that the other team from the first round is going to be next because there's only one left. There's only Toronto left, right? So for Minnesota, it's an interesting offseason now, isn't it? We've seen this before. They look pretty good. They go to the first round. They lose in the first round. Rinse and repeat. It feels different with Kaprizov, though, doesn't it? And it feels different when you've got a new general manager in charge that seems to have an idea of what he wants the future to look like for this team. So their overall record 35, 16, and 5, which was good. They were good in that division, right? The West Division, they did pretty well. And you have to think next year in the Central, they probably still have a pretty good chance of succeeding. Now, not showing up on the youngsters part of the board, of course, is Boldy and Rossi, who haven't debuted yet, but both should be a prominent part of this team next year. Now, they did lose to Vegas in the first round, but it took 7 games for Vegas to knock them out. So, overall, things in Minnesota have to feel pretty good, even though, as I said, they lose in the first round again. And this has been a problem, losing in round 1, maybe round 2, but definitely not any further than that, since 2003. So it's been almost 20 years since they got out of the second round. Now, their special teams numbers varied wildly. They started off with an absolutely miserable, terrible power play. They ended up with a lethal power play, and then in the playoffs, it's kind of all over the place, right? So in the end, their regular season power play number, 17.58%, which is not good enough. But again, they started off with it was like 4% for a while there. So yeah, it's skewed wildly all over the place. Going into next year, you have to think they should at least have a top 10 power play because Kaprizov will have a year under his belt. And like I said, they've got some new guys coming in. 18.2% in the playoffs against Vegas. Now, their penalty kill during the season, 80.75%. During the playoffs against Vegas, 86.7%. Excellent penalty kill against Vegas. The Vegas Golden Knights have had trouble with their power play, though, during the season. So, again, we'll see whether or not that bodes well for them next year. Minnesota is going to experience another facelift in the offseason, in all likelihood. So there are a number of players on expiring contracts, and I've put the noteworthies up here. There are others. Marcus Johansson, who I thought played okay, but again, he's not a top 2 center. And I found it weird when they picked him up with the idea that they envisioned him as a top 2 center. He's more comfortable on the wing. Nick Bonino and Nick Bukestad, the two Nicks. I think Bonino might get an offer to stick around for Minnesota. Bukestad, I don't think so. Kyle Rao, who has been mainly an extra guy, if they want to keep him around, I would think they could probably do it for not much above league minimum. Ian Cole, who was very impressive for Minnesota, far better for Minnesota than he was in Colorado before that. So he looks pretty comfortable. I'd be kind of surprised if they don't find a way to bring him back. And Brad Hunt, who's an extra number 7 guy. I've always liked Hunt as an underrated defenseman. I've thought, or at least he's a good fill-in here and there, and puts up some good numbers at times as well. We'll see whether or not they bring him back. Pending restricted free agents is where things get really, really interesting. Kevin Fiala, how much is he worth right now? Joel Erikssonek, or Yule Erikssonek. It started out as Joel Erikssonek, and then it became Joel, and now it's Yule. I don't know. At some point, his name's just going to be a symbol on a piece of paper, and we're going to have to try to figure out what it is. I'm kidding. It's always funny when they're trying to get the pronunciation exactly correct, and it evolves over time. So Yule Erikssonek, restricted free agent, had an excellent season. So is that how he's going to play going forward, or is that because he knew he was playing for a contract? And of course Kaprizov, who's been reportedly offered over $64 million over an 8-year contract, and the question becomes one of, does he sign that long-term extension with Minnesota? Does he sign a bridge deal thinking he can make more money, say 2 or 3 years from now when the cap starts going up again? Highly likely there's going to be a lot of guys doing that. So it depends on whether or not he chooses team or himself. And yet for $64 million over 8 years, that to me sounds like you're picking yourself. But in this case, it would probably be a team-friendly cap hit once you get into years 2 and 3 of that deal. So 22 and under, because Kaprizov came in at 23 years of age, he's currently 24. The only player aged 22 and under who's appeared on their roster is Kalen Addison, and there's been some debate about how I do this. Yeah, this is their age at the start of the year. Players 22 and under that have played for it's not rocket science, and yet people want to debate it. calendar. Go fight with the calendar. Players 32 and over that played on this team, again, based on their age at the start of the year: Nick Bonino, Ryan Suter, Zach Parisi, Brad Hunt, and Cam Talbot. Zach Parisi is a fascinating one because there's been a lot of talk about whether or not Parisi stays in Minnesota. And that goes back years to when they might have wanted to get rid of his contract and nobody would touch it, to last year when Lou Lamoriello was willing to maybe take it on and they couldn't work out the details to the NHL's liking. Then we got the flat cap. I'm guessing Lou Lamoriello just hangs up the phone now if somebody calls him about Parisi. And so what happens to Zach? Does he end up coming back to Minnesota next year because they can't make a move for him, or do they find some other way to move that contract? Suter, while he's got the exact same contract, I haven't heard nearly the amount of buzz about Suter necessarily being traded because I think Suter's contract's aged a little bit better, which makes some sense. Defensemen generally seem to play later in their careers than forwards in many cases, and this would appear to be the case with Suter and Parisi. At the very least, more effective later on in their careers. So their top scorer during the regular season was Kirill the Thrill. No surprise there. 55 games, 27 goals, 24 assists, 51 points. Best rookie in the league. And again, we can have the debate about what age should be the cutoff for the rookie of the year. I can't see the NHL changing it. They've changed it once. That's the Makarov rule. I can't see them changing it again. But yeah, he has been the most electrifying first-year player in the league. No doubt. Fantastic. Now in the playoffs, their number one scorer, technically there's 3. Now Parisi, to me, because he only played 4 games to get 2 goals and an assist, to me he's the number one scorer. But Kaprizov and Eric Sinek both played 7 games and had 2 goals and an assist. Controlling Kaprizov is a major reason why Vegas was able to withstand Minnesota. And if Kaprizov had been able to work some of the magic against Vegas, he'd been able to work against other teams during the year. Minnesota's probably the team playing Colorado right now. So I really think that was a big reason why Minnesota ends up bowing out in 7, is that their scoring just wasn't where you want it to be. And yeah, I mean, Marc-Andre Fleury was fantastic, but Kaprizov wasn't given any space out there either. So it's something he's going to learn in time. Their top goaltender stays the same in the regular season and the postseason. It's Cam Talbot for both. Talbot 19-8-5 with a .915 save percentage, 2.63 goals against. Now, Kakkonen was very good for them, but by the end of the year, Kakkonen's numbers were trending in the wrong direction. So Talbot was the clear-cut starter, and in the playoffs, 3-4 record, .923 save percentage, 2.45 goals against. Excellent postseason for Talbot. No complaints from there. And while he is 33 years of age, 34, he's going to be older. That's how the calendar works as well. Go yell at it. Talbot is still a very good goaltender. He is a very good goaltender in the National Hockey League. And I think he might have had his best season with Minnesota that he's had since he was a Ranger. So I'm skipping over the really good year he had in Edmonton and going back to when he was a Ranger that one year and everything fell into place. It kind of felt like that was the Talbot we saw this year in Minnesota. So that's something that Bill Guerin fixed. He's going to have to fix a couple other things. But if Boldy steps right in and if Rossi's good to go in the fall, that's going to solve some problems as well. That should help team speed. That's going to give the team some energy and a much-needed infusion of youth, which as recently as 2 years ago, Minnesota fans were screaming that they needed that youth, that ability to step it up that they weren't seeing. So yeah, Minnesota looks pretty good. Look over the last 5 years, and again, you can see why it might look the same. So again, 35-16-5, losing in round 1 against Vegas. Last year, they were 35-27-7. In the qualifying round, they lost to Vancouver 3-1. Now, they had 35 wins, but they had a lot of losses in there as well. So the wins are the same, the losses far less this year than last year on a shorter schedule. The year before that, 37-36-9, did not make the playoffs. 2017-2018, 45-26-11. They lost in round 1 against Winnipeg, 4-1. That was the series where Dubnyk stood on his head until he just couldn't do it anymore, and then the floodgates opened. 2016-2017, 49-25-8 record, and in round 1 they lost to St. Louis in 5. So for Minnesota, it may feel familiar. Round 1, qualifying round 1, and in the middle, a year they didn't make the playoffs. But it definitely feels like Minnesota now is building towards something, which is important because, again, like I said, they haven't really seemed to be building towards things since 2003. When Jacques Lemaire helped get that team to to the conference finals where they would lose to the Anaheim Ducks in what is still to me the most boring series in the history of hockey. That was a tough one. That was rough. But, that's how Minnesota and Anaheim played. They both used the neutral zone trap. And that's how that worked. Their best contracts, I actually went with 3 different contracts here. I went with 2 forwards and a goaltender. Marcus Foligno, his extension kicks in, $3.1 million until 2024. Honestly, for what Foligno brings to this team, and I understand Jared Spurgeon is the captain. To me, Foligno's the captain. Just to me personally, I see Foligno as the captain. You look at what he did in the playoffs, the leadership role he took on, and how much it negatively impacted the team when he did get hurt this year. To me, Foligno's the guy. Ryan Hartman, $1.7 million until 2024. He took a pay cut, and he played excellent against Vegas. Less prominent as the series ran along than he was at the start of it, but still, overall, for what you get from him, $1.7 million for another 3 years, that's remarkable. And Kaapo Kähkönen, who for 1 more year, they pay $725,000 for him. That is ridiculously low number for what he does, and that's why you should get guys signed before they come up to the NHL and show what they're worth, and get them a couple of years, because you get a bargain contract like they've got with Kähkönen here, who you have to think will still be backing up, or a 1A, 1B situation with Talbot next season. So yeah, things look good, I think, for Minnesota going forward, but I'd be interested to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.